Welcome to Glorious Botafogo, your number one source of Botafogo news in English. Welcome back to the GB podcast. Unfortunately, Pedro couldn't make it today. Failed on getting a little last-minute substitute in there as well. So you've got to deal with me for the next hour or so, just myself. I'll try and make myself as enticing as possible in terms of the topics we're going to discuss today. If we need to cut it a bit short, then needs must, I guess. It will just be one voice for the time being. We were planning to maybe just do the podcast after the Fluminense game on Thursday, but 2 games have passed since the last podcast. Of course, we've played. Who did we play? We played Grêmio last weekend, followed by a game against Vasco the other day. No, I lie. It was Grêmio midweek last week, followed by Vasco on the weekend. We will have Fluminense on the Thursday. This has been recorded as of the Tuesday, because I actually had to just check my fucking phone for that, because that's fucking stupid. And so the day, it'll probably be uploaded the day after, so the day before we play Fluminense, giving it a bit of shelf life to preview that game. But yeah, a lot's happened since then, man. A lot has happened since then. Touching on the Grêmio game. And obviously, after we touch on the football, we've got a bit of shit to talk about in terms of off the field antics, because as you know, at this club, it's never ever quiet behind the scenes, man. It's never ever quiet. It's ridiculous. But the Grêmio game, it was a bit of a humbling. We did see these same gaps in the Cruzeiro game in terms of this is something myself and Pedro actually analysed. Newton playing in that central centre-back role, playing I won't say a stopper role, more of like a sweeper, I guess you could say. I know for a fact that Anselmi has tried to shoehorn him into that position, into that sort of role, because he's not a natural defender. And it shows. Same with Matteo Bonchi. Although I did think he had a good game against Cruzeiro, I thought he was vital in that press. I thought he was very comfortable on the ball. 2 defensive mistakes between him and Newton, and just some very poor performances in general. But those are the 2 you pick out in terms of, just preventable goals. But I really do not want to put too much heat on Matteo Bonchi or Newton, because at the end of the day, this is an abject failure from the top, and we will get into that, but it's not their natural position. And Barbosa had a lot of ground to cover that game. It's just, yeah, so I remember the first goal, Matteo Ponchi, Carlos Vinicius just runs off the man, and then Newton completely missing the header. Now, look, I know some people are going to say, as a professional footballer, especially with his stature, Newton, them absolute statue Eiffel Tower legs he possesses, yeah. Maybe you can argue he should not be misjudging an aerial ball as bad as that, because it is the type of thing you do in training every day. But when you're on the pitch in an unnatural position, an unnatural area of the field you're not used to operating in, not only can nerves get to you, but your situational awareness isn't quite there. So yeah, look, the goal, that goal was on him, so was the other goal. But I refuse, Anselmi's hands are tied behind his back. Bastos came in against Fluminense, and he actually looked, despite the fact we lost 2-0, luckily he did look a lot more refined, because the game against, against Vasco, he looked a lot more refined. I do apologise, this is 10-4 UK antics here. This is, I'm not thinking with the most proficiency here. It was Vasco. He played well against the muddy pitch. Fluminense is what I meant to say. He looked fish out of water in that game. But you'd expect him to be, because he's not played a game since a fucking millennia. It's been at least over a year since he's sniffed any sort of football. But luckily, he did look a lot sharper against Vasco. So in hindsight, it is easy to say, look, do we just put Bastos in for the next game? I mean, I will touch on that Vasco game a little bit now. I thought Justinho in the defence, playing alongside Barbosa and Bastos, I thought he was excellent. Now, he was my pick of the bunch. He was my Botafogo's man in the match. Obviously, Coutinho was just ridiculous that game. We don't need to be too doom and gloom about it, though. If we look at the lineup, we were just playing our Copinha players. And I have to commend them. Look, Vasco were the better team. It was men against boys. Could have been more than two. We could have got a little goal in there, though. I felt we did waste a few openings. But in terms of the composure some of the midfield players possessed, definitely not Marquinhos for sure. It's the last word you associate with him. Now, look, he's combative. I like it. I get it. But 2 yellow cards in the space of 12 minutes. Real, and the second one, it's just ridiculous. It's a silly way to get yourself sent off. It's just shows the lack of maturity, which again you expect it to happen. Justinho, I thought, put some beautiful tackles in. Looked very composed. Looked very combative. Very comfortable. His defensive awareness was fantastic. However, he was very, very rash on the penalty. Now, it is the type of thing. Not to bring European football into this, but Arsene Wenger, famously managing Arsenal for 20 years, he depicted a famous story of Colo Torre, who was part of the Invincibles team, and he was smashing everyone left, right, and centre in training, rash tackles left, right, and centre, and he's. I won't go over the full story, but basically, all the other players are looking at him thinking, "Oh, it's a joke." He's got absolutely no composure. He loses his head too easily. Arsene Wenger said, "No, look, I like his combative spirit. I like the nature of I like his aggressive nature." And then with a bit of coaching in time, he went on to be, a Premier League hero defender. So it's the type of thing where, as what I'm trying to get at here, right? I know it's a bit of a long stretch analogy, but when you see those sort of traits in a player, good or bad, and in this scenario, it was a Stonewall penalty. I had no idea when I was watching the game why he's turning around and protesting to the referee. It's a blatant penalty. There's no need to make that challenge. Look, I know he's got a bit of space in the box to twist and get a shot off, but Bastos has got it covered. There's still a fair bit of ground to make there in order to twist his body to put the ball past Leo Linke, who again that you can't pin on Leo Linke for either of the goals. By the way, I think he's done all he can. I'm not too sold on Neto, although against Grêmio, the game he started, the defence in front of him, fair enough. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. But yeah, I mean, we touched on this situation regarding goalkeepers in the first episode. We just need to wait it out for now. Although I do expect us to be linked to a few more goalkeepers, I am hoping. But Justine, you hold your head up, mate. It was a silly penalty. But, the willingness, the analogy I tried to give there, what I'm trying to depict is the willingness to actually go in for that tackle and win the ball in a dangerous scenario. You need to tone it down. Obviously, at the top level, you will get found out like that. You definitely will get found out. But it does seem that the passion as well. He does seem the type of defender that you can see in the next few years' time would make a little breakthrough, whether it's at Botafogo, whether he goes to another academy, another team, Serie B, and climbs up the ranks. We will have to see in the future. So yeah, shout out to him. Shout out to most young players as well. Even the substitute, Bernardo Valim, he's a good player. I didn't think he was too great when he come on, of course. Kel Valle, who I was calling to start quite a few match days ago, he looked all right in the cameo he got. But yeah, also that pitch as well, Vasco. This is where I offer a bit of fire into the podcast now. I was having this conversation with my girlfriend, and I was going on about how I just don't think that this is going to be controversial, but these natural grass pitches, like the ball. Look, I understand. Like this is the artificial grass, the 3G pitch that we play on, that Nil Dos Santos. With all due respect, yes, it's a bit tougher. It's easier to sustain injury, but the ball will always move smoother across the ground. And if you have a good drainage system, like at Botafogo, then water pushes off a lot easier, and you won't get that flooding pitch as often. It never really happens at the Nil Dos Santos. And that little crybaby Neymar can put as much shit as he wants on his Instagram story. At the end of the day, mate, last year 3 teams using artificial pitches. You put your little story up on Instagram, tweeting Memphis Depay on Twitter and everything. The infrastructure needs to change. and 4 more teams decided to join the party with Botafogo and realised, yeah, we're called the carpet at the Nilton Santos because of the smooth surface. And this is, so I don't want to blame Vasco, to be fair. It's not their fault it fucking rained. It's not their fault we lost either. I want to make that very clear before people start twisting it. We both play on the same pitch. I'm very aware of that. But just from a spectator's point of view, whether you're a Botafogo fan or whether you're a Vasco fan, those sort of games just become sort of unwatchable. I'm not going to lie. We saw the same scenario last year. In a recent game as well, I actually forgot, but last year as well when we played Flamengo in the Supercopa do Brasil. It's just ridiculous. I just think that these teams, by no fault of their own, in Latin America and Central America, South America, these tropical environment teams, I suppose you could get away with it more. Southern Argentina, Rio Grande, maybe Chile as well. But these other really very tropical Latin American countries, what I'm about to say is not an opinion; it's a fact, right? So whether you disagree with my opinion that maybe we need to take a more serious transition into artificial pitching, which I do understand is controversial because natural pitches are better. You got to realise this is not the climate of Europe. It is not the climate of Europe. Sorry, Neymar, it's not. The facts is that the natural grass when weather tends to get aggressive, they never ever hold up well in countries like Brazil and Colombia and Costa Rica, and they never hold up well. You know, that's not up for debate. It's just part of the climate, mate. That's just how it is. But yeah, so small rant aside, the game was also. Can you imagine the this is why I got to give a bit more praise to the young players who played on that day because, I suppose they're used to playing in that sort of environment. You know, they play Brazilian football. It doesn't excuse the fact that, generally speaking, the facilities in Brazil are pretty poor. I hope that does change with the money coming through now. More teams transition more towards the SAF and everything. But yeah, I guess you could argue they're more used to it. But playing an experienced side who know how to deal with that, who've been there and done it on that sort of environment, and giving them, I wouldn't say a competitive game, but matching them toe to toe in the middle, making it really difficult for Vasco. So it's not too doom and gloom in terms of that result. It was mainly the Grêmio game, which was a disappointment. Big shout out to Artur Cabral. He was my pick of the bunch last week against Cruzeiro, despite the performances from Montoro and Danilo. Same again, hold up play, the way he took the goal, just snappy, reactive, everything, man. Sorry, he was fantastic, Artur Cabral. He was absolutely fantastic, man. Montoro as well, a little chip pass for Danilo. Now, when you tactically analyse that goal, it's total football, man. And this is what I mean when I went over. So last week I did a little section on Barbosa, the way he defends that left area of the pitch. I actually want to focus a little bit more now on when we have the ball in transition. Because we built up the ball from the right side, and when we build up from the right side, Matteo Ponchi playing a part in the goal, Danilo coming across, then obviously he's combining with Vitinho. So it's Vitinho, Danilo, and Matteo Ponchi. Those are the three players that make that little triangle. So when it's played between those three, Danilo is right on the run. He's straight on the run. And he's dragging. And also, Artur Cabral as well, you have to shout him out because the run he made, the little swizzle run he made in behind Montoro to drag the defender away, phenomenal. That's what made the space for Danilo to make that box crashing run. And it is the type of move where if Montoro does not execute the pass, Grêmio come our way and we get hit on the break. So it is very much the Botafogo way, utilised in a much different style, and I really like it. I really, really like it. I was not a fan of the early signs in the first couple of games, but then again, that's just sort of thing like players looking to get into the groove. They've had the month off and everything. But I mean, the early signs, like it's just so annoying that the goal's so preventable. You know what goal really of the bunch that really disappointed me the most? The one from the corner, man, that Alex Delage, like this is exactly why I wanted to discuss this in more detail. This is exactly why I picked Barbosa as my captain. Now, I don't want to throw shade at Alex Delage because he is a good leader. You know based off what I've seen and what I'm aware of, a lot of the players do look up to him in the dressing room. He's been in Europe, he's got the experience, but he doesn't have that imposing stature about him, or he doesn't, like, he's shit in the air, let's just be honest. I think one-on-one defending, since he's got a bit of help from Barbosa, and he's got a very, again, he's got that fighting nature in him since he's come back to Brazil. I think his one-on-one defending has improved. Whether it's improved or it just looks not as bad as it did in the, like the Premier League, for example. I don't know, but one-on-one defending, he's all right, but it's in the air. He's always been shit in the air, like back post crosses, and it shows. It's sometimes that's just what they utilised. It wasn't rocket science by Luis Castro at the end of the day. They found themselves 2-1 down, and he said, "Right, look, we're being played off the park. We need to change our approach. We need to change our approach play." And again, it's not rocket science. You've got Carlos Vinicius. I don't particularly rate him, to be honest, but as of right now, he's banging the goals in. You want to utilise a striker like that on form, and he can play that advanced target man role, and he executed it to a T. So if you've got fast wingers like they do, and you've also got, not that Willian was involved in any goals, but you can bring Willian off the bench. You can curl the ball in as well. Like the amount of players you've got, the tricky wingers, the pace they have out wide. I know it's not pretty, but bomb down the wings and just hit crosses in, because we've got two non-natural defenders there, and then as well as that, Vitinho as well. Even though he's a bit more, he's got a bit more about him. I think he's a bit taller than Telles. I might be wrong. Maybe Telles is taller actually. I don't know. But all I know is that he's a bit better in the air. That's for sure. He's not as weak. You don't see him go down as easy. So that even when Dallas comes inside. He's not going to be offering Barbosa any help. Like, let's be honest. That's exactly why I picked Barbosa out in the last podcast episode, in terms of how much trust Anselmi's putting in him, and it's shown. It's shown when they lump the ball up. We have two defenders there. Whether you want to put them into the back stick when you're going down the flanks, or whether you just want to chip the ball up from the halfway line in transition play and just get a knock on from the striker, they could do that, and that's exactly what they've done. It wasn't rocket science. I don't want to take too much away from Gremio and criticise the style of play, because if I was Luis Castro, I would have done the same thing. I would have absolutely done the same thing. And if we did have the players equipped to deal with that, Luis Castro is a good manager, man. I'm sure he would have found a different way of playing, but it's the harsh, brutal reality that Anselmi's hands are tied behind his back. He's not got the luxury of the squad depth that Luis Castro has at the moment. And we've got some good players. Not to say our depth is terrible. In terms of quality-wise, it's not. We've got some good players there. I like the look of Mateus Martins coming back into the team. Arthur as well, he was pretty poor when he come on. But as well as that, he looked good against Cruzeiro off the bench. He looks a lot more willing to take a risk. So we just need to allow this new style to adapt to the players, because I do like the look of it, and it does. I have to admit, I did have my concerns when Anselmi came in, because I saw how he played at Cruz Azul, that back three system, and the triangles and utilising wide play and trying to play the ball forward on the floor. Like, I saw that, and I knew that's exactly the type of system he's going to try and implement at Botafogo. And it's like, look, we're doing it a bit quicker. We're doing it like the transition in which we break, in which we attack. If you go back and watch that Cruz Azul team, it's a lot quicker than we do out of Botafogo. So that's what I will say. But I was still concerned about the lack of personnel, like sort of fit to sustain that role, because I don't want to keep going over and over it again. But our only fit natural defender at the moment, natural centre-back who can play, Bastos is coming back, it's Barbosa. You can't do it all on his own. So when I saw that's the direction we wanted to go, that's the direction John Tex was adamant he had to go. You know, John Tex did say very publicly that the conversation between him and Anselmi in the interview was very positive. He knew about this. The transfer ban came along, you know, and that was just fuck. And which has been lifted, actually. A lot to talk about that as well, but again, it's still not all doom and gloom. It's just a poor start, man, but it is very, very early in the season. There's no need to there's no need to start losing our shit now. There's not. Doing this podcast on my own, sometimes I just waffle like completely sardus. I forget where I was. I was dissecting the first goal, talk about that little pattern of play, the space that opened up for Danilo. Montoro did execute the pass, and I was talking about that. That's where I transitioned, talking about how high risk Anselmi's style of players. He's a player, Montoro. He is a player. He got hooked off early. I can see why. He's played a lot of minutes, trying to save him. We do have Fluminense this week, and a chance to redeem ourselves in the game where we did lose in the Carioca. We will be playing our full strength side, and also we're going to have the Libertadores qualifying stages coming up. A bit of a packed schedule, so very, very lucky actually that the Carioca has been moved forward a little bit this calendar year. Now I know they've done it for the World Cup, but it's just ideal for us as well, especially in our situation, transfer ban that we've been through and everything. A little bit of a saviour in disguise, I guess you could say. Although, do you know what? I've never really been a fan of state championships running until March. Now, look, I get that most people will agree with me, but the traditionalists will say no. It's one of the oldest graceful competition formats in Brazil. You got the Gaucho, you got the Mineiro, you got the Carioca, then obviously the prestigious one, the Paulista. But your football can't stay at a standstill for the longest time. I love the Carioca. I love reading up on the icons of Botafogo and reading up Jairzinho. He comes back from that leg injury towards the end of 1969 into the 1970 Carioca, and then I believe it's 9 goals he scored in that competition. And I love it. I love it, but I wouldn't scrap it. But I like the way it is now, shortened, so you can get the Brasileiro game started early, and it gives you more room in the Brasileiro calendar to space the games out. To space the games out. So you can space them out in between the Copa do Brasil, your Libertadores games, especially the teams that have qualifiers as well. And I mean, whilst we're on it, this is something that... So in English football, for those who don't know, they've taken replays out the FA Cup, and obviously in the Copa do Brasil, you play 2 legs. You play 2 legs from the very first round you compete, and why the fuck do you do that? I've never been a fan of it. Now again, it's traditional, and some people will get frustrated with me saying this. Maybe I'm just a stupid gringo, but what I will say to that is in English football we had a similar format in the FA Cup, where if the first tie ended in a draw, then it would go back to the tie would go back to replay, and then actually back in the day, if the tie used to end in a draw, then a draw, then a draw, it would just go replay non-stop until someone won, actually. And then they changed that for the better. And as of recently, to manage with fixture congestion, they cancelled replays, and it was very controversial amongst English fans. I actually think I'm one of the few that are actually for it, because again, the traditionalists, we love FA Cup replays, and it's just like... I don't like 2-legged Copa do Brasil games. I just don't. If you want to make them 2 legs, semi-final, final, shot, maybe even quarters at a push, even I won't be happy with that. But still, it's something. I suppose it's a little bit more manageable. But again, man, I'm just not a fan of it. Now, look, I suppose the counter argument, which I could accept, is that for the bigger teams, it's a nice opportunity to play your Copinha players. Mingling a bit of first team players as well, to expose them to a bit of first team, senior football. And I do understand that it's a good opportunity as well for a lot of the fans of local teams, because Brazil is a big country, man. Brazil's a big country. The Copa do Brasil is a big tournament. It is a big tournament, and in order to see a lot of these big players fly over the country and see some of the stars of the league compete locally in a lot of these small minute areas of Brazil. So I do understand it, but just in terms of welfare for the players, you got to understand as well, and that in the Brasilia, I know it's taking a bit of a change, right? I know it's taking a bit of a change, but they're not getting paid the same king's ransom as European players. So they're under no, how do you call it, moral contract obligation, really, to run themselves into the ground. 2 games a week for an entire calendar year. It's fucking ridiculous. It's the most brutal. I know the Argentina calendar's the same. It's just sometimes it's too much, and they're not being paid anywhere near the same amount as the players are in Europe. And the reason I brought up that phrase I just made up about morality in the contracts and everything is because I went back to a quote. I can't remember his name, but someone on the executive board of FIFA who was directly responding. And do you know what? I do agree with him as well. He was directly responding to a lot of the criticisms of the Club World Cup about fixture congestion. You know, the exact issue I'm trying to talk about. And he said, look, you're going to get more games and you're going to see us fitting in as many games as possible because these players demand such ridiculous contracts. Like, with all due respect, yeah, I'm seeing fucking average players, man, on 100k a week. And it is just a food chain, the footballing economic pyramid. So if you're going to rip these clubs off of more money and trying to get players are well within the right to do that. They're well within the right to do that. Don't get me wrong. Ultimately, you want to make a money, you want to support your family, you need a career, you need to sustain a career. But I'm talking more in the cases where we can talk about Marlon Freitas, the one who shall not be named, although I just named him. We can talk about players like that, and players in Europe as well who will, turn their back on the contract, who will voluntarily not turn up to training, to force a bigger move purely just for the money. You know, that's again. Different podcast. Trust me, that is an entire different podcast. Not even a South American football podcast, man. Let's not talk about that. But yeah, I mean, my final point I'm trying to get across is that I'm just not a fan of two-legged games in the Copa do Brasil, especially in the early stages. For me, I just think it's better when... Now, I know Brazilian football's always been like this, and I know it's all... I get it, right? Unlike European football, which has taken a change in the yearly calendar with the more money that's come into the game, so I know it'll be doing a bit of a flip. However, I just think if you space out the games more... in a calendar year. So you have 2 games a week here and there, 1 game a week, 2 games a week, 1 game a week. You know, that extra training session, whether if the players can just prepare for a game or just stay at home and just rest, just rest the muscles a little bit. You're going to get a higher quality game of football pretty much every time, in my opinion. More fast-paced, more energetic, more focused. I just think it's better for the game from a spectator's point of view, a player's point of view. That's just my opinion. Now, I just got to put a little addendum onto all this shit I'm talking here. Because it is a solo podcast, inevitably you are going to hear me waffle on about all this useless crap. Because it's just the type of person I am, to be honest. When I talk about football, I just stray into any topic I can possibly talk about. Pedro, get your ass on the next podcast, man. Jesus, this is this is a funny one. But let's talk about off the pitch now. We will get into previewing the Fluminense game in terms of... I'll try and skim through some transfer rumours as well. I believe there's a couple of players, I think Medina being one of them, who I think the deal for him is looking, because of the transfer ban scenario, it's allowed him to do a complete 180 turn. And it's looking like a player we're going to miss out on, which is it's just really, really, really frustrating, man. Now, in terms of off the pitch, the big news last week, well, there was 2 talking points. I think that the biggest one for me was Dairo Arruda, club CEO, stepping down. Now, obviously, it was a bit of... there was talks behind the scenes that him and Texter was not getting along. Then Texter putting his damage control out on Instagram, of course. Oh, Dairo's my little brother. Yeah, of course he is, mate. Shut the fuck up, man. Sorry, Texter, man, but I'm not absorbing it like a sponge, mate. Too much shit's been going down. And, like I said, you have to take everything he says. Every action, every performable action as well. Including the steps he's taken necessary to pull us out of this transfer ban. You have to take everything with a pinch of salt. Because the reason that the disagreement... Well, they were disagreeing over a multitude of things by what I was hearing. But... the reason why he decided to step down was John Textor taking out another loan with, again, that's reportedly ridiculous interest rates and whatnot. I forgot the exact number. But that's what he's done in order to settle the Almada fee, which threw me off because he went on Botafogo TV not long ago and said, I'm going to make a personal investment. He probably will run with that story and just call everything fake press. And do you know what? Maybe he's right, but the thing is, you've not put your money where your mouth is a lot of the time, John. Sometimes you have. A lot of the time recently, you've definitely not done that. So you're not giving us any reason to just blindly believe you. I'm not saying on the other hand that fans and media outlets should just be making up bullshit. Right? I do understand frustration there. And you know what? To his defence, right, it probably is easy to write a lot of bullshit when he's not got the greatest track record recently of sticking to his word. But that doesn't mean we can't question it as a fan base. You know, Ahuda, I think, although despite the dead silence at times, especially last year, I was incredibly frustrated with him. John Textor especially, but even more frustrated with him, the lack of communication to the fans when we were absolutely coachless for a couple of months, and then we go and get Hernando Paiva. Like, are you kidding me, man? Are you kidding me? But look, he did seem like a guy who just wanted the best for the club, and the rumours have it is that it's the social club that blocked the whole deal with Montoro and Danilo in that scandalous deal to Nottingham Forest. I think he was the architect of actually putting a block on it as well. Although you could say maybe the block might have been put on there anyways because because obviously we're forbidden from selling players whilst we're in this transfer ban phase. It's been a complete mess, and all I've got to say is thank you, Tayo Ahuda. Obviously, I'll have my frustrations with you naturally as a fan. I think your work as Botafogo has been excellent. We thank you all because we all know your heart was in the right place. Hopefully we can move forward with someone in the right frame of mind. Maybe it's the type of thing where we're overlooking it a little bit. It happens to a lot of clubs, man, where club CEOs and chairmen can have disagreements and fall out with owners and whatnot. Maybe they'll go elsewhere and be successful elsewhere in terms of making a change in footballing culture elsewhere or whatnot, or maybe they'll just fall flat on the face of the earth. We don't know. And it doesn't matter because if we can go forward in another direction with someone else to lead the recruitment team, someone else to step into that role of a chairman of the club, who aligns with John Textor, and as long as we're not, no, I need to make this clear, who aligns but doesn't put us into a hole, because if everything we're hearing is true in terms of the loans that Textor just keeps taking out and taking out and taking out, the debt's going to get bigger, Textor. Not smaller, it's going to get bigger. And I do not understand. I am a bit worried in terms of the financial sustainability of this club. Every time there's a financial crisis at this club, Textor, he loves to reassure the fans, and then the next few days, it's just absolute crisis. It's absolute crisis, man. It's going to get worse if you don't get your shit together, man. I know you've got this whole drama with Eagle Football and Aries, man, but you've got one of the biggest clubs in the world. Botafogo are one of the biggest clubs in world football, whether you like it or not, the history, the stature. You can't just... No, I know where all the money and recognition, and maybe your focus might be in European football, whether that's not with Lyon, whether it's not even with Crystal Palace or another team you're looking at. I know he was looking at Sheffield Wednesday in the English Championship, whether it's just Molenbeek in Belgium, mate. Like, come on, man. I'm not asking you to neglect Molenbeek, by the way, because I really feel for them fans, man. I really feel. I know that they're not the biggest club in terms of stature, in terms of Botafogo. The fans themselves will obviously admit that they're not a Botafogo stature club, but they don't deserve to be treated just like some little arsewipe feeder club, man. And then the whole identity change as well. It's ridiculous. He's biting his nose off. He's biting his nose off despite his face. He needs to get a grip. He's bought himself some time. For people like myself, there's a lot of a portion of the fan base that I just had enough of his shit, which is, I don't blame you. I'm going to give him that patience. John Textor, at the end of the day, he's given us the best times of our lives as Botafogo fans. You could even argue, even if you are a fucking 80-year-old that saw all the good days on Canal TV, or whether he was even at the game or just read it in the newspapers, man, of Jairzinho and players by Amarildo and whatnot. That year, 2 years ago, it was just magic. It was really magic. Most of those players now gone on to play European football, which we expected. But why were they offloaded so quickly? Why? Because if we build a good squad now, like Danilo and Montoro are the stars of the team at the moment. What if one of our younger players, what is Yatalo, who we've just bought in from Sao Paulo's academy, or one of our own academy players comes in and they make a good first impression, and then before you know it, bang, they're just fucking gone. That we had to re-sign Jefinho from Lyon because he made an impression under Luis Castro, and before you know it, he's gone. He's gone Luis Enrique, not the one who went to Zenit. Although we can talk about him, we can talk about Luis Enrique, who scored the other day for Inter Milan. Again, it's the same scenario, man. Sustainability at this club, it's non-existent, man. It's frustrating. It's frustrating. It pisses me off. Boils my blood. Texter, you need a new strategy. If you really want to be this competitive owner, to take Botafogo back to glory days, which, do you know what? Look, in all credit, a fifth place finish, first place finish, and a sixth place finish. We are up there all the time. You know, under your leadership, it's undoubtedly we're always up there, which is where we should be. But if you want to seriously compete, because last year we did not seriously compete. Even in the Copa do Brasil, we got done in the quarterfinals, man. Although you can say maybe a bit unlucky and whatnot, I know, but there could have been a lot more done from the top in order to compete in a lot more serious note. Last year was just a shambles, man. In terms of, I can say that as well, because even though it's nice to be up there consistently again, right? The amount of money we spent, that we still had fucking Igor Jesus and Gia Cunha for half the year with Marlon Freitas and Gregory before he went as well. And we were not seeing a style of play, Renato Paiva. The recruitment was completely wrong, and then you decided to get your act together. And Davide Ancelotti, look, he did what he could. Maybe a bit harsh on his part to go. You got to think as well. I know, so Davide was discharged because I'm not going to do Davide Remontada. I'm more than happy with Anselmi. I love Anselmi, man. I love him. I can see the style of play he's trying to develop. I can see the passion in his heart, man. I can see it, and this is. I wouldn't change the decision now, but you do have to pose the question, because the whole rumours is that Davide was he was really keen on one of the physios we had at the club, and apparently he was a bit of a pain in the arse behind the scenes, which is why we were looking to get new recruits in that area of the club moving forward in terms of staff. And that's where the disagreement came between John Textor and Ancelotti. You got to pose a question that, did Davide see something that we didn't, maybe? As the story just put something out in terms of damage limitation, damage control. I don't know, man. Maybe I'm thinking a bit too conspiratorial here, but there's just so much shit that happens at this club. You just have to question almost everything. You have to question whether if John Textor breathes fucking oxygen, mate. Whether he doesn't. How do we know he's not breathing carbon monoxide and he's a fucking AI programmed robot? Yeah, boys, this is my Tuesday evening for you. Talking about what am I on about, man? What am I on about? Do you know what? I need a good sleep. And I need Botafogo to do their business against Fluminense on Thursday. And you best believe. Actually, I will just check our fixtures in terms of who will we have after that. We play Fluminense, and then I believe we've got. It is Flamengo. That is on the weekend. That's on the Sunday. Actually, yeah, I think that's on the Sunday. It says. That'll be in the Carioca, yeah. So you best believe after Flamengo game, me and Pedro should be jumping back on here. He should be back for episode number 4 of the podcast. But in terms of Fluminense, I mean, we will just we will preview that game real quick. You don't expect any new names to come forward in order, in any term. In terms of additional players going to add to the matchday squad, I know we've just come out the transfer ban, but we're not going to get any deals wrapped up by then. It's just not going to happen. So the likelihood is it will be the exact same starting 11. And that probably does include, because I know Bastos he's just come back though, man. So that will include the inexperience of Newton and Matteo Ponchi in defence. Look, we were fine against Cruzeiro, but the difference is, I did note this last week when they beat us in the Carioca. Renato Gaucho will make those risks. He will set his team out to win. It is at the Maracanã, and it will be a different game. It will probably be a bit more of a physical game. I don't think Cruzeiro were looking forward to that physical side. That Anselmi's team offered, we just sort of fucking bullied them, man. I don't think Fluminense are going to be that much of a pushover, man. They do look a decent team. They spent a lot of money. If Savarino plays anywhere the same way he did when he came off the bench against us, I hope he starts. Although saying that, he's probably going to score now. I said that. It's a hard one to call. We're going to be more up for the game. They're probably going to be more up for the game as well. They probably will go up a level. I know they will be playing pretty much near enough the same team they played against us in the Carioca. But it is in the Brasileirão. They will step it up a level. I'd like to think we're going to win this game. But just based off... I don't know, it's a tricky one to call because when we brought on a few players in the attacking phase in the game in the Carioca game where you beat us, we were competing. We were competing. You know, we should have had a penalty, and we were looking a lot threatening, but it was just too little, too late, unfortunately. And you know, Fluminense should have scored a few more as well. That being said, they probably will be more clinical, man. They've got players who can put the ball in the back of net. They've still got Jamin Cano going strong. I think I'm going to go... I think the game's going to be a bit cagey. I have a feeling the game will be... Because despite the fact last game was only a 1-0, it wasn't that cagey. Like, Fluminense had more or less more control of the ball. And every time they had the ball, you got to give them a direct counter-attack, man, playing across the lines. And then, you know, those reverse passes, you know, brilliant, man. You know, Renato Gaucho, he knows how to coach attacking freedom into his players. And that is something I really worry about because they will come at us with underlapping runs from Martinelli, from Hercules in the midfield areas. It might be a long day. However, I do also think Alan will be good enough to combat that as well. Unlike the game in Grêmio where he was just sort of nullified usage, because as good as Alan is, he's like, I mean, he's got the stature of a pencil case, man. He's 5'5". He's not going to be heading out balls at that height, is he, man? Like, come on now. I do think he's going to play a crucial factor in this game. So we will be more up for this game for sure. I'm going to go for 1-1. I hope we win, but I think it'll be a very cagey 1-1 game. I hope I'm wrong and we win. Or if if that point salvages an extra point instead of losing the game, then so fucking be it. We need all the points we can get right now until we get plays in. Anyways, like I say at the end of every podcast, last 2 episodes, thank you very much for those who have listened this long. You are a legend. Especially this podcast. This has been going for around 45 minutes long, so cut a bit shorter in today's episode since it is just myself speaking. But yeah, we have touched over quite a few things in terms of previewing the game, the upcoming game against Fluminense, analysis of some of the past couple of games against Grêmio and Vasco, also touching on the previous Fluminense game in the Carioca, touching on behind the scenes as well, John Texter, the statement he put out, Dara Ahuda, the whole situation of that, a little bit of a rant by myself regarding the logistics of modern football, European football fixture congestion, and me just talking absolute shit, which must have been painful for you lot. But yeah, thank you very much for those who have tuned in and listened this long. Like I said, you are an absolute legend. Let's hope Botafogo don't stress us out too much on the Thursday, although I don't think there'll be much question of that. I'm sure they very much will do that to us. So let's just sit back, hope for 3 points. If we get the point that I do predict, I'll be content with that. But let's try and go for the 3 points. Let's try and get rolling back again. Vamos Botafogo. Thank you very much for watching.